In the American West, death is usually permanent. When a settlement fails, it is erased from the map and reclaimed by the landscape. In 1590, the Roanoke colony vanished, leaving behind a single word carved into a wooden post as the only evidence of its existence. Centuries later, the village of Lamar, Nebraska, followed a similar path. After the highway bypassed the community, the remaining residents formally voted to unincorporate, legally dissolving the town. Some deaths are environmental. In Centralia, Pennsylvania, an unstoppable underground coal fire has been burning for decades, forcing the total abandonment of the borough. And in Times Beach, Missouri, dioxin-contaminated oil sprayed for dust control was spread by a massive flood, triggering a federal buyout of the entire town. Whether claimed by mystery, shifting trade routes, or industrial poison, the pattern is usually final. Once a town dies, it stays dead. But deep in the Nevada desert, an anomaly stands out among the dry brush. These foundations belong to a settlement called St. Thomas. St. Thomas was a deliberate sacrifice. The federal government targeted the town for removal to make way for a massive project that would define the modern Southwest. Now, the massive body of water that swallowed the town is retreating, bringing the settlement back into the sun. These ruins are reappearing because the Colorado River can no longer fill the reservoir. Their exposure is the visible proof that the region's water supply is collapsing. In 1865, Mormon settlers arrived near the Muddy River to establish a foothold in a brutal environment. They fought extreme heat and consistently failed cotton crops, struggling for years against the scorpions and mosquitoes that defined the valley. Despite those odds, St. Thomas eventually succeeded. It grew into a diverse community of 500 people, with its own hotel, grocery store, and school. The settlers had spent 70 years taming a hostile landscape. Then the government decided to drown it. In 1928, the Boulder Canyon Project was authorized to provide reliable water and power for the booming Southwest. St. Thomas sat directly inside the basin designated for the dam's reservoir, Lake Mead. As construction progressed, the government initiated a buyout program, forcing families to move as the water level began its slow climb. Hugh Lord, the final resident, refused to leave until 1938. He only abandoned his home when the rising reservoir physically forced him out. At the reservoir's peak, the town's highest building sat 60 feet below the surface. St. Thomas was the cost of progress, deliberately buried to provide the water that sustained Las Vegas and Los Angeles for decades. This chart tracks the volume of Lake Mead. The current megadrought is reversing nearly a century of flooding. The town briefly surfaced in 1963 and again in 2002. Today, the ruins' exposure physically measures the region's massive water deficit. As the water retreats, it threatens the Hoover Dam's ability to generate hydroelectric power. Millions of people in the Southwest are now relying on this exact shrinking supply for their daily survival. The water that displaced this town in 1938 is now vanishing, and its retreat threatens the very cities founded on its sacrifice.